Welcome to Talking With, and for today's episode, I'm with some of the cast members of Spring Awakening. First off, I have Stefanie Lis. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Okay, I was born in Calgary, and then I moved to Edmonton for school. I went to Brent Middleton, graduated in 2012, did the theatre arts program, and since then I've just been working in theatre and not in theatre. Yeah, what else do you want to know?
That's pretty good. You're also you're in a trailer for a book movie coming up?
Yeah, well, the trailer is for a book. Yeah, so it's Follies Past by Melanie Kerr, just so everyone knows. It's great. It's a prequel to Pride and Prejudice, and it's really good, and it's funny, and it's easy to read, and she's great, so everyone should go read it.
You're also directing a play for a Canada-wide project to raise awareness about elder abuse.
I am. Yeah, I'm working with Jewish Family Service. It has a very long title. It's a Pan-Canadian Elder Abuse Awareness and Education Program in Ethnocultural Communities. So I'm directing a short play called The Silent Crime, and that's just to raise awareness about elder abuse in our community. And that we have our first show in a few weeks, I think on the 12th. And those shows are free.
Wow.
Yeah.
Excellent. So tell me a little bit about the character you play in Spring Awakening.
Okay, so I'm playing Wendla. She's young, she's 14. She's very curious. The whole society doesn't really know anything about sexuality or the ways of the world, I guess you could say. And they live in a very religious village, like it's a small town. And Wendla starts asking all these questions, like her body's changing, so she's wondering where babies come from, like what's going on with her body, what are these things that she's feeling. She falls in love with someone else, and then she, as the play goes on, she kind of becomes more confident in herself, and she does some things. I don't want to spoil anything, but kind of by the end she's embraced that, and she's not ashamed of what she's done. She doesn't regret it, and she wants to change the world, and I can't say anything else without spoiling it, so that's all.
That's good. There's a lot of surprises in the production. So now on Broadway, this is a role that was created by a fairly familiar name to audiences, Leah Michelle. Is that kind of daunting shoes to fill, or you're just taking a whole different take on this?
I like to think that I'm going in a different direction. A lot of people think I look like her. They're like, oh, you probably got cast in this role because you look like Leah Michelle. I'm like, I hope I got cast in it because I have a little bit of talent, and just because I look like Leah Michelle. But I honestly don't really like the way she portrayed Wendla in the Broadway, what I've seen, like on YouTube and whatnot. So I'm trying to take it in a different direction. Obviously, some things are going to be similar, but I hope it's different.
Now, your character has some of the most hauntingly beautiful songs, but they're very frank too. This is a real eye-opener production. Your background in theater to date has prepared you well for this character?
Yeah, I mean, I've been in the chorus a lot and a lot of ensemble stuff, and then my other bigger roles have been kind of also like the ingenue, like, so yes.
Next up is Brent Middleton. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was born here. I was a young Canadian for a great many years, so I did the Grandstand show and whatnot. Then I had the chance to kind of tool around on cruise ships and the like for a few years. Decided to come back to school, and then I got involved back in the Calgary art scene, which has led me to here, playing one of my dream roles.
You've got quite a few. You've been with ACT before for The King in the Apple Kingdom.
Yes.
And I see Storybook Theatre, Joseph of the Technicolor Dreamcoat. I mean, you've really had a nice rounded experience. Now, what's the character you play in Spring Awakening?
In Spring Awakening, I'm playing Moritz. He's the best friend to Melchior, and really he's a depressed and anxious individual in a time where that is not anything that's known. It's not something that fits in with society. So he's really kind of a bit of an outcast.
He's a bit of a roller coaster ride of a character. Fun to play?
Fun, but challenging as well, because it makes you go some very interesting and not so nice places sometimes inside yourself. But that's what really the show is about, is exploring all those different facets that you don't normally see in maybe a lot of everyday life.
And I don't want to spoil anything, because your character has a few things that happen throughout the play. But how do you feel his particular story arc impacts the overall story?
Also, without trying to reveal too much, I believe he does have a large impact by he's a foil to so many of the characters, and he forces them to take a look at themselves and their own motivations, especially for Melchior, whom they've been childhood friends, almost brothers, and they're almost polar opposites at the same time.
We're one night away from the first preview. You getting pretty excited?
Absolutely. This is definitely a labor of love on a show that. This show, it's a piece of art that somebody's taken a lot of deep emotion, a lot of darker emotions, and yet given it that just faint enough twist to turn it into something absolutely beautiful and exciting. And from day one, we've been excited to do this show, and the fact that we're this close from actually getting to show it to people, we're all very excited.
Well, I wish you the best of luck, Brent, and I look forward to seeing it myself.
Terrific.
My next actor from the cast of Spring Awakening is Eric Wigston. What can you tell me about yourself, Eric?
I am an Edmonton-based actor, but I'm slowly but surely going to make Calgary my home and kind of give myself one more year, and I'll be down here for good. I've been working professionally for about 5 years now, and I'm just super excited to be a part of the show.
And what character do you play in Spring Awakening?
I play Melchior Gabor. Yeah.
So as I read it, headstrong, handsome, and charismatic.
I'll take that.
He knows much more than the others because of what he reads in books, is able to see the corruption in society. So your character is the entire opposite of the spectrum from Wendla. The songs your character sings, like All That's Known and Left Behind, indicate a whole other life experience than that of Wendla.
Right.
So do you feel that you're sort of the good or bad guy in this?
You know what, I don't think there is a good or bad, because in this show I feel like we're all struggling to find knowledge, I guess, in the large sense of it all. Especially Melchior. I feel like Melchior is really struggling to find answers to questions that he's always had, but no one's been there to answer them. And they're not hard questions, but they're questions that have been skirted away because, back in 1890, they didn't talk about sex, they didn't talk about, or they didn't question religion or why we do things. So I feel like there is no good or bad, but just a constant struggle of trying to find themselves. So yeah, I feel like he enlightens some people, like Moritz, his best friend, kind of they're very close, but it's kind of a brother relationship, and he's always looking out for Moritz, and Moritz is always learning from Melchior because he is knowledgeable, he is smart, he reads books and asks questions, and Moritz feeds off of that. So yeah, I feel like his character in the end causes some trouble, but it comes out of a place of just wanting more knowledge on something. So I feel like, yeah, trouble happens. I guess bad things do happen, but I think it comes from a place of naivety, maybe, or wanting to know more.
It's like the old saying, if you're gonna make an omelet, you gotta break some eggs.
Exactly.
Now, there are some pretty heady topics, and we're dancing around. We don't want to spoil anything for everybody, but there's some pretty heady stuff covered in this production. Do you have any expectation of how your audience is going to react?
I'm interested, actually. What's going to be the most interesting is I'm interested to see how young people react. the show is full of young people. We're all young adults in our own right. So it's like to do a show for young people. I'm interested to hear what they have to say, and if they've got something from it. I think it's also going to be quite interesting for the adults that come see the show, because the adult characters play such a crucial role. You know, they play our priests, they play our teachers, they play our moms and our fathers. And you know, back in 1890, there's the question of how do you talk about sexuality, or if someone is dealing with, if your child is dealing with depression, how do you start that discussion, or what do you do? So I feel like for adults and parents and teachers and the people that are older than myself and many of the cast members, they will come. I'd like to see how they feel towards the young people, but also towards the adults that are in the show. So I'm interested, actually. I'd like to have discussions with people afterwards to see what they got from it all.
Yeah, and it's funny, for people that aren't aware, the original production was back in 1910 of this thing.
Yeah.
And then it got adapted for Broadway. And the music that you guys are doing, I've had a chance to just hear a little bit from what you're doing. It sounds excellent. So it'll be interesting to see, like you say, how the cross-generational thing plays out, and the themes that just never go away.
Right, you know, and it does touch on things that are so relevant today that you're surprised. I'm always surprised when I look at the script and I read it and I go, wow. You know, Frank Vedekind, who wrote the original Spring Awakening, was touching on some racy topics back in the 1890s. You know, like that's a strong thing to talk about back then, because it was so frowned upon to talk about that. And I read that it did get shut down, and it was kind of taboo. It was kind of banned because it was so racy. And you know, it's not as racy nowadays, but I feel like the topics and the themes inside the play are still so relevant to young people today. So, yeah, I think that's really cool with the play.
Well, this is the last dress rehearsal before previews start tomorrow,
Yes.
so I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much.
It'll be fun to catch it myself tomorrow night.
I'm excited for you to see it.
Excellent. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.